this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Thursday edition, Clay Travis Buck Sexton show. We are off and running, many different stories to be tracking. Reports that Trump was prepared, as we talked about yesterday, to strike Iran, and then at the last possible moment called off an attack after Iran promised that they would not execute any of the protesters, and that request came at the behest of Saudi Arabia, other Middle Eastern countries. We will continue to follow that. Greenland drama, we will discuss. Kamala Harris has got a new $8 million home, probably from which she will be planning her big presidential campaign that will get me another fantastic steak dinner at the expense of Buck Sexton. But we begin with an actual serious and dark story that continues to unspool itself from Minneapolis, where another ICE shooting happened last night because another ICE agent was attacked. Multiple different individuals reportedly attacking an ICE agent. He felt compelled to fire as they resisted arrest. He hit someone in the leg. Protests swept through Minneapolis yet anew, and there were ICE vehicles that were torn asunder, different documents that were stolen, reports that a weapon was stolen from inside of a ICE vehicle. It has become downright nasty in Minneapolis on a level, frankly, that does not exist anywhere else in the country. And we have Attorney General Pam Bondi, who weighed in on what is going on there, and this is what she said.
What happened in Minnesota? We had 6 prosecutors who suddenly decided they didn't want to support the men and women in ICE. One of them was busy doing a photo shoot with the New York Times while ICE was out there risking their lives. So they came, they said, we want to resign, but we want to use our annual leave up until April, meaning they wanted the taxpayers to pay for them to go on vacation because they decided they didn't want to support law enforcement. So the breaking news tonight, I fired them all. They're fired from the office. And our U.S. attorney there, Rosen, he's great. He was just confirmed 3 months ago. So he has his hands full. And that's what we're facing around the country, the deep state, in many of these offices.
Okay, Tim Walz is telling everybody, the governor of Minnesota, pull out your phones, record everything that's going on. Buck, this feels like an eerie echo of what happened in 2020. You and I have talked about this a great deal, that in the wake of the BLM protests, what happened was people said, oh, police officers are the problem. They're the reason there's violence in this country. Police officers were attacked, sometimes physically, often verbally, certainly in the larger court of public opinion by Democrats who did not want prisoners to be kept in prison cells and did not want violent criminals to be arrested. Now, 6 years later, roughly, it feels to me quite clear that ICE is being targeted in Minneapolis in the same way. And I think President Trump, who said I may have to put the Insurrection Act in play, I think he has an opportunity now to try to stomp this out before it spreads and before we get worse aspects like this nationwide. I think he needs to surge resources. I think he needs to send a message that didn't happen, frankly, in the early days of BLM, that violence is unacceptable, that we're going to arrest people who engage in violence against ICE officers, and we cannot allow what happened in 2020 to replicate itself back in the summer of 2020. It feels a little bit like the early stages of potentially something similar.
Well, this is why on Truth Social, Trump has written the following. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me. Clay, I think he should.
Yes.
I think that this is a pivotal moment. This is a defining moment for whether we are a rule of law country. Democrats, the Democrat base of Biden, Kamala, etc., the lawlessness of illegal immigration they have embraced, they do not get to nullify federal law enforcement efforts. Imagine, Clay, what the response would have been if we had people ambushing FBI officers who were going in at pre-dawn raids for nonviolent J6ers. Imagine what by the way, I think the Democrats would have said to the FBI, just open fire on them. I mean, I honestly think they would have been fine with lethal force in that situation. And unfortunately, I think some of those FBI officials would have done it because they're scumbags. Some of them have been fired thanks to, the last year. But Clay, the Insurrection Act, this is clearly a organized and planned out and widespread effort to undermine the rule of law and to stop the administration from effectively conducting these operations when it comes to immigration enforcement. Whatever resources are necessary should be deployed. Whatever the federal government needs to do here, we've seen this in the past. We've seen how they'll send soldiers to the schoolhouses for the Civil Rights Act. Whatever they got to do here, they got to do.
Is it fair to say that Trump 1.0, maybe the most disappointing decision that was made, not situation that arose, but decision that was made, was not aggressively enough trying to stamp out the BLM protests? I think if you go back in time, summer of 2020, I think the Trump team made the decision that this was going to burn itself out more rapidly than it did. And unfortunately, what we got was actual burning of so many different cities. And like I said, you can go back. The data is clear. 2020, 2021, murder rates skyrocketed all over the country as police were not allowed to do their job. My concern is that we are seeing the same kind of opposition to ICE that we saw to police in 2020. Let's be honest, a lot of times it's difficult when there's a police raid going on or an FBI raid going on or an ICE raid going on to know exactly who the authorities are that are conducting that raid. And so I think Trump has to come in aggressively. We saw him do it, and I think he set a tone in the agenda and the precedent in L.A. It wasn't that long ago, Buck. Remember when the Waymos were burning and they were throwing things at police officers and at ICE agents like crazy, and you had Mayor Karen Bass speaking out about how unacceptable it was. Trump surged support for ICE agents in Los Angeles, and by and large, that story vanished. They put in place the rule of law. Now, they filed lawsuits, and they said, remember Gavin Newsom said Trump can't call out the National Guard. He doesn't have this authority. He clearly does. He has the authority to call it out. Minneapolis has emerged as the flashpoint, I think, of far left-wing activism anywhere in the country. Tim Walz and Mayor Fry are encouraging this in Minneapolis. I think President Trump needs to surge law enforcement resources and needs to send the message, we're not letting this spread. ICE is going to do their job. We've got their back, and we're going to continue to implement the raids and policies that were already in place. This is, to me, a crucible decision for the president.
It's also very obviously where the Democrats believe they will break the back of this administration and turn the tide just in time for the midterms.
Yes.
They think that they can do two things here. One, energize the Democrat base, get them all, we're the new civil rights heroes, and they're standing up for illegals. In some cases, these people are preventing arrests of like rapists and pedophiles and murderers and gang members, and they think they're heroes for this, which is completely insane. But that's where the Democrat base is. This is all they've got. I mean, they're not going to win on women can have penises. I mean, we saw that at the Supreme Court. That's actually
which
not
is the strong basis of the Democrat Party, to be fair.
It turns out that's actually not true, Democrats. And you can keep saying it's true, but it's still not true. And we're not going to change our minds on this one. So they think that immigration is where they can make their stand. And they also know that this is where Trump cannot break his compact with his voters this time around. First administration, first time, some bumps, some lessons, everything else. This is it. Trump's got this and this term only to figure this out. And that's why I think that whatever it takes to dutifully and faithfully enforce these laws in Minneapolis and elsewhere is what the administration should do. I think Trump knows this is an all-in moment for his agenda and for his second term.
No doubt. And so, again, we will see. And unfortunately, I think what you are seeing is the mayor of Minneapolis and the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz and Jacob Fry, they have made ICE agents targets. They are encouraging people to target them. I hate to say it, but unfortunately it feels self-evident that this is going to happen, Buck. Somebody in Minneapolis is going to open fire on ICE agents. That this is going to happen. It feels inevitable to me. All of you know it because they are encouraging their crazy supporters, their base, to engage in this kind of behavior.
Remember that lunatic BLM supporter who killed, I think it was 5 cops in Dallas?
Yep.
And many of us had been saying they're calling for violence against cops. This is going to get out of control. They're calling. Not only are they calling for violence against ICE, and this is from across the board now, because when you say someone is a Gestapo, every movie we've ever seen, what do you want to happen to the Gestapo agents? And sometimes it does, right? That Inglourious Bastards movie or whatever, right? But what do you want to happen? You want someone to take out the evil Gestapo guy. Indiana Jones, what do you want? The Nazis' faces to be melted off and all that. Like, this is... So when you're calling people Gestapo and Nazis and SS, which is what they're calling ICE, and I mean members of Congress, you want bad things to happen to them.
Yes.
And not only do they want bad things to happen to them, if an ICE agent, God forbid, but if an ICE agent is killed in the conduct of his duty, you'll go on Blue Sky if you want that night. There'll be maniac Kamala voters celebrating it all over the internet. All over the internet. The people that pretended to care so much about the rule of law, the insurrection, January 6th. All of a sudden, law enforcement, they will celebrate the murder of a law enforcement officer if it happens all over the internet, Clay. You know it and I know it. And that's what they've taken this country to.
They're putting targets on all of them. The behavior is unacceptable. And again, the fact that Minneapolis is sort of the hornet's nest of opposition, I think we have to send a message that this is unacceptable. We can't allow it to spiral and spread. We saw what Trump did in L.A. I think it was effective, and the same thing needs to happen in Minneapolis. I actually think, Buck, the best advantage we have in Minneapolis right now, it's going to sound crazy, is that it's super cold. Because when the George Floyd BLM protests began, it was May. It was May of 2020. Weather was getting better. You've talked about the fact that protesters, by and large, show up in bigger numbers when the weather is good. And it's super cold in Minneapolis, notwithstanding the reaction and the opposition that we're seeing right now. I think it's easier to tamp down this behavior right now than it would be in May or June. I should expect it, though, because we're going into an election year. The timing on this is not coincidental.
It's like we were there for the inauguration and we saw that sad protest that we've talked about on the show before. The old ladies with their teeth chattering, all 10 of them, like, free Abu Mumia, free Palestine.
Almost exactly 1 year ago today, we were doing the inauguration trip to Washington, D.C., and that was what we were seeing. It was exactly that situation.
I can't feel my toes, but trans rights are human rights. You know, it was a sad spectacle out there. So yes, protesting in freezing weather is certainly less fun. Of all the investments that I've made in the last decade or so, buying and owning gold's got to be top 5. In fact, here, I'll tell you something. I just bought more gold. In fact, I just sent through the wire. I've got this underway right now, thanks to my friends at Birch Gold Group, because I'm a believer. I understand right now you're like, gold's gone up so much, 60% last year alone. Yeah, but there's a reason why. It's not because stocks dropped off so much, right? There was a lot of movement in the markets that was positive last year. It's because the long-term thesis for gold remains strong. So if you're a long-term holder, I'm not saying, get in, get out, like short-term stuff. If you're a long-term precious metals guy like I am, gold and silver, Birch Gold Group is here for you. They make it so easy. Like I said, I just went through this process with them yesterday, and it's so streamlined. They want to know exactly what kind of size in your portfolio you're looking for, and they want long-term customers because they're believers in gold too. So I just bought more gold from Birch Gold Group just now. I recommend that you do the same. A portion of your savings, right? A portion of your savings, a portion of your of what you've got, or your 401k or IRA. If you got an old 401k or IRA that's just kind of sitting around, Birch Gold will help you transition it into gold. And right now until January 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. If that gets your attention, claim eligibility now and start that process. Text my name, Buck, to 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. Make right now your first time to buy gold. Take advantage of a rebate of up to $10,000 when you buy by January 30th. To get started, text my name Buck to 989898. Claim your eligibility today. Text BUCK to 989898.
Making America great again isn't just one man. It's many. The Team 47 Podcast. Sundays at noon Eastern in the Clay and Buck podcast feed. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Second hour of Clay and Buck kicks off now. Yogi Berra once said it's deja vu all over again. He was a clever fellow, that Yogi Berra. He was a sports fellow too, Clay, from what I understand.
Great Yankees catcher.
And here we have that feeling because a member of Congress has returned, you will recall, to what a previous member of Congress said. I think it was back in 2018 when AOC was leading the charge on abolish ICE. Aren't you seeing the connections here, my friends? Trump's first term, what was really the first thing that wasn't Russia collusion where they really dug in? Now, that was all a fabrication, as we know. That was a lie. It was deep state, soft coup, and all of that. But it was on immigration, Clay, that they made their first real stand against Trump policy, and it had to do with the family separation policy. That was the thing. Oh, my gosh. And it was AOC. Remember that? Dressed all in white, crying, holding the fence. And you started to hear abolish ICE was the slogan. That was the phrase. We're going to abolish. The problem with that, of course, is why wouldn't you get rid of the law that ICE is enforcing? Well, because then you'd have to just be open borders and everybody would know it. So what they want to do is get rid of the agency that enforces this law, but keep the law on the books because then you won't have to have the political conversation and members of Congress won't have to take votes to show that they are open borders. Anyway, it fizzled, but it is very much now back. This time, not because of border enforcement, because Trump got that one down. He figured out, you want to talk about learning from the first time out, Trump 2.0 has locked this border down. It is secure. Trump 1.0, they got them on the family separation issue because this was all being exploited. It was all parts of immigration law there's complexities in this, but basically they figured out if you show up with a kid, you get to just come into the country. So then everyone starts showing up with kids. They go, well, we're going to start, processing the parents and the kids are going to be held in a separate facility. And then, oh my gosh, you're breaking up families, the whole thing. Clay, I bring this up because this guy who's a member of Congress, which is even for Congress pretty hard to believe when you check this guy out, Shri Thanadar. You see this guy?
Oh, yeah. He's the one with the ridiculous hair for people who have, that's maybe not saying it, but this guy his hair maybe the most ridiculous wig in all of Congress.
It's pretty remarkable. He also speaks with a very thick foreign accent. Okay. And he is so you have the guy with probably the thickest foreign accent in Congress telling everybody that we need to get rid of the agency that enforces immigration law. Cut 12 wants to abolish ICE. Listen to this.
ICE is beyond reform. ICE is totally out of control. And this week, I intend to introduce a bill to abolish ICE. We need to make ICE go away.
I just want to know.
Come on.
Clay, but they did this before, though. This isn't the first time we've been here. Abolish ICE. So everyone gets, to your question before about how many illegals, everyone gets to stay.
Yeah.
The Democrat position, you're increasingly seeing all that stuff about how they want to enforce the law too, and they want secure. The immigration system's broken. They want to fix it. No, actually, they want it to be broken. They broke it.
Well, they want open borders, and I think that guy we just heard from, if I'm not mistaken, team in New York, you can research it. I think he was the first one to introduce impeachment proceedings against President Trump. Obviously, he did not get very many votes, but that is the reality under which this motivation is occurring, because Trump has, for the first time, I don't know if you saw this story out there, for the first time, I think in several generations, I think going back to before Reagan, there were fewer people that came into the country during Trump 2.0 Like we actually had a decline in migrants.
In entire net migration, Clay, is negative in last year for the first time since the 1920s, which is an incredible data point.
Yes.
Here, I've actually got the numbers. Monthly flow. I've got the monthly flow of net immigration. It's basically been 50,000 a year for the last 30 years. And then under Biden, it went to 200,000. Biden just kicked the borders open, everybody. This is what they did. And now with Trump, it's negative 145,000.
Per month so far in the first year. And now look, the exact numbers, Tom Homan, I actually saw him yesterday at the White House. Tom Homan believes that 2 million people roughly have self-deported, that is left the country on their own. And we know that there's been deportation of around 600,000 people. So the number out there, I think that number is based on that you just referenced is roughly 2.6 million people leaving. Now, Tom Homan said that there's 20 million illegals in the country. So roughly that would mean about 10% of the illegal population left in year one. The challenge you're seeing there, if you do basic math on this, is even if Trump kept the exact same pace up and the self-deportation percentages remain the same, we're still basically getting to a place where we're getting down to 12 million illegals instead of 20. It's a huge number. And this was really the calculus behind Biden opening up the border. It was that when all these people get here, it basically becomes impossible to ever get them to leave. And that's the calculus. This was not a 4-year plan. This is a multi-generational plan by which they want to change the character and the populace of the United States. It's very calculated in intent, and Trump is pushing back against it.
You have some really crazy and reckless things being said by members of Congress. For example, here is Hakeem Jeffries, former Speaker of the House. This is cut 16. He's just saying, he keeps repeating this thing about how they're brutalizing immigrant families. Play 16.
Clearly, significant reform needs to take place as it relates to the manner in which ICE is conducting itself. ICE is using taxpayer dollars to brutalize American citizens and to unnecessarily and viciously target law-abiding immigrant families and communities. The whole premise that Donald Trump sold to the American people was that this immigration enforcement activity was going to target violent felons. It's not targeting violent felons. They're targeting American families, brutalizing American communities, and now, as we've seen, killing American citizens. This is out of control.
Oh, this is what they
brutalize.
Yeah, Renee Good, deep down, when she was shot, every Democrat politician like Hakeem Jeffries was excited by this. And you can say, well, Clay, you're being cruel there when you say this. Not really. Axios said, they had a story this summer where they specifically laid out that Democrats were training people and they were hoping that there would be a violent act so that they could use that as an argument of a political nature to try to stop these ICE raids from occurring. That is, this was their hoped for action. I hate to say it, but they hope that others will be shot too. They are willing to sacrifice on the altar of politics life. And it's quite clear, because then they can come out and they can say, see, this is what happens. American citizens are being brutalized and killed by ICE. This is unacceptable. This is what they wanted to happen. This is why they're telling everybody to show up with their phones. This is why they're telling everybody to get in the face of all these ICE agents. This is why you have so many people that have decided to make it their life's work to show up and scream and bang pots and pans and honk horns and insult and spit on all these ICE agents out there. And they're just making the situation dangerous, and violence is going to ensue. And this is why I said earlier in the last hour, Buck, I'm already angry because I know that ICE agents are going to get murdered. It's just a question of when. We've already seen it. They have set the kettle to boil, and it's inevitable what's going to happen. You know it. I know it. Every person out there listening knows that we're going to turn on our televisions or we're going to look down at our phones and there's going to be innocent ICE agents murdered. And you pointed out, Buck, on Blue Sky, they'll be tap dancing on their graves.
They're also, absolutely, and they're also preparing to blame ICE and the murdered ICE agents for the violence that you and I both see as imminent against them. Over at CNN, Abby Phillip, the tactics of ICE, that's putting them at risk. Play 14.
DHS says that this was a targeted enforcement operation and that the ICE officer was attacked. And I do think that is exactly the type of situation that we want as few of those situations as possible to transpire. And yet it seems like all the time there are all kinds of interactions happening where ICE officers are put in danger. And I'm not sure if it's all just because of, violent people attacking them. Sometimes it's also the tactics that I think are putting them at risk. The vehicle stops, which have been some reporting about how these vehicle stops are so dangerous.
The vehicle stops are dangerous because the gang members they're trying to arrest don't want to be arrested.
Yeah. Yeah, go figure.
This is crazy stuff. But I'm telling you, this is going to be the thing. Well, if they hadn't been in these communities, the terrible thing that you and I think is going to happen, I agree with you. I think it's going to happen, just a matter of days. If they hadn't been in these communities, it wouldn't have happened. Imagine if we took that approach to straight up like gang enforcement activities by cops, right? Oh, if they hadn't been making those arrests of the Bloods and the Crips, they wouldn't have had the cops to shoot at in the first place.
Buck, this is the argument they made in Washington, D.C. when the guy traveled across the country and killed two innocent National Guards people. I guess killed one and severely wounded the other. I believe that's the final result. I think they were both from West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. I think one of those individuals survived. They said this is Trump's fault for calling out the National Guard. They created this situation. Look, they motivated that crazy person who, if I remember correctly, was an Afghan refugee who was led into the country without being soundly vetted, who lost his mind, who drove across the country and attempted to kill two innocent people, among others. When this happens with ICE, what did they immediately say? Even the media put up like, oh, look, Trump made these people targets by trying to reduce violent crime, by trying to make the city of Washington safe. Notice, Buck, you're not hearing much about how effective that has been. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now. City is way safer statistically than it has been almost in a generation. Nobody's talking about it.
This is what the left does, whether it's fighting against any kind of terrorists, fighting against crime. It's always the thing you're doing to address the problem is the real problem.
Yes.
The fighting against the bad thing is the cause of the bad thing. Classic communist tactic. Total nonsense.
Yesterday, I saw President Trump in the Oval Office, and I actually thanked him for the impact that the surge is having in Memphis. Again, nobody's talking about it. New Orleans, way safer. Washington, D.C., way safer. President wants to go into a lot of other cities and make them infinitely safer, too. You'll notice when he has that success, the story just vanishes. Remember, Buck, everybody said, oh, that's never going to work. Oh, there's no way if you put more people on the streets that things are going to get safer. Actually, things got way safer.
Yes, they did.
I want to tell you right now, I want you to take advantage of this great offer. Look, this company has amazing products, Cozy Earth. Trust me on this. Go to the website, COZYEarth.com. They have unbelievable products. Trust me on this. Whether it's sheets, whether it's blankets, whether it's towels, you are going to be blown away by how great the quality is of this company's products. CozyEarth.com. We've got them all. My wife was ecstatic. They've added more products to their website. Right now, you get 20% off everything on the whole website when you use code CLAY. That is, go to CozyEarth.com, COZY Earth.com. My name, Clay, CLAY, and you will be blown away by how high the quality is and how great the products are. And you will get 20% off everything on the entire website when you use my name, Clay. That's C-L-A-Y. CozyEarth.com. Go there today. C-O-Z-Y Earth.com. My name, Clay. CozyEarth.com. Code Clay.
Stories of freedom. Stories of America. Inspirational stories that unite us all. Each day, spend time with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back in, Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton show. We'll get into Kamala's $8 million house. Maybe some in the third hour. We'll talk a little bit about Greenland. I was doing some Greenland research. But Caroline Leavitt is right now in the White House press briefing room. And I believe, boys and girls, we have a couple of cuts of things that she just said. Let's listen.
President Trump unveiled a health care plan for America called the Great Health Care Plan. The Great Health Care Plan will accomplish this through 4 common sense pillars. Number 1, permanently lowering prescription drug prices. Congress can get this done by codifying President Trump's historic Most Favored Nation initiatives into law to guarantee Americans the same low prices for prescription drugs that people in other countries around the world pay. Number 2, the Great Health Care Plan will stop sending big insurance companies billions in extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice. Number 3, the Great Healthcare Plan will maximize price transparency by requiring any healthcare provider or insurer who accepts either Medicare or Medicaid to publicly and prominently post their pricing and fees to avoid surprise medical bills. And number 4, holds big insurance companies accountable by requiring them to publish rate and coverage comparisons up front on their websites in plain English.
Okay, so, Buck, clearly there has been a calculated attempt for the start of 2026 when you look at the president with plans on home affordability, health care, even we had that big discussion about credit card interest debt. The president has decided that affordability is going to be a big part of 2026, and I think he's recognized that it may well decide the outcome of the midterm elections, not necessarily what the data shows, but how people are feeling about the data and whether it feels like he understands the concerns of people like them.
We got smoked in the 2018 midterms, and the data showed that it was healthcare. Got smoked. Remember, we were going to repeal Obamacare. We didn't repeal Obamacare. It was a rough one. And so, again, notice Trump, the team, they've learned lessons from the first, which is what you want, right? You want people to understand they're getting ahead of this. They're on it. And I think that really pricing and transparency and making as much of this as more of this market based those are the basic principles you want to increase. I mean, we have screwed healthcare up in this country so much, so badly. It's pretty astonishing, actually. All you have to do is look at what it costs today.
The more the government gets involved in anything, look at what education costs, look at what healthcare costs. The more the government decides to wade in on anything, you go look at, compare healthcare cost, Buck. I saw a good graphic on this that I thought was super interesting. Compare the pace of healthcare cost with flat screen televisions. Do you remember a generation ago when a flat screen television basically cost an arm and a leg? I mean, it felt like when you got that first HD flat screen television, it cost $4,000 or $5,000 was how much those things cost.
I remember needing help from friends in college to carry my big ass TV up the stairs because I think it weighed about 100 and something pounds. I mean, it was a mess.
And giant. Now you go to Walmart or you go to Costco or Sam's or any of these places, you can get a 45-inch flat screen television for $200. I mean, it's unbelievable. Government gets out of the way, things get cheaper. Government gets involved, things get way more expensive. Unfortunately, that's a lesson that a lot of people on Capitol Hill still haven't learned. We come back, Buck. Greenland talk. Kamala Harris, your girl, 107 days. She now has an $8 million house in Malibu. We will dive into both of those stories, among others. We'll keep you updated on what's going on in Minneapolis as well as we roll into the final hour, Thursday edition of the program.
I bet they paid her so much for that crappy book, even though it didn't sell.
Oh, totally.
And this is one of these, because a lot of these big publishers, they're just run by libs, for libs. and they will write a huge check to some Democrat politician just as like it's good for the cause.
Yes.
No way. Kamala's book, I read it. It's terrible.
It is terrible. The House, $8 million. She's cashing in. We'll talk about it next. Welcome back in. Hour number 3, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show, Thursday edition of the program. We appreciate all of you hanging out with us in what continues to be a tumultuous, crazy time with tons of different stories that we are tracking on a minute-by-minute basis, frankly. Minneapolis, you heard us talk at the beginning of the show and quite a lot already in the first couple of hours about the disaster that is unspooling in Minneapolis in the wake of yet another shooting where an ICE agent was attacked. I went on Sean Hannity's show last night. Buck talked about it, and we will continue, I am sure, to update you on that story as we progress. We're also continuing to update you on Iran. Reports, as we talked about in the first couple of hours, that President Trump was poised to attack yesterday and at the last moment chose not to, based on the fact that Iran made promises through third parties that they would not be conducting executions of protesters. We will see whether that tamps down the tempest in that relationship right now. Price of oil and gas came down substantially, as maybe there is hope that there is not going to be attacks coming there. As if that were not enough. Ongoing discussions surrounding Greenland, as we have talked about during the course of the show as well. Greenland representatives, Denmark representatives in the White House yesterday trying to persuade President Trump that he did not actually need to buy Greenland, and that did not go well, and President Trump still wants to buy Greenland. As we were talking about earlier, maybe we'll dive into this and have a little bit more fun with it. Do you know, Buck, what the number one part of the Greenland economy, according to what I read in the Wall Street Journal this morning, is? So there are 57,000 people who live in Greenland. Obviously, there's lots of talk about the long-term value of the minerals that and all the different natural resources that could be associated with Greenland, its location near the Arctic Circle, the impact of that. Trump is worried about Russia or China ending up with Greenland and how that would impact the overall status of the United States. All those things are true. But right now, what is the number one part of the economy of Greenland based on what I read this morning in the Wall Street Journal? Do you have any idea?
I mean, I know in Iceland, it's the fishing industry.
Yeah.
I would assume in Greenland, that's a big thing, but also mining would be the next guess that I have.
Mining is not very substantial so far, and this is very specific. According to the Wall Street Journal, it is shrimp. It is basically
so I nailed it, actually, out of the gate. Not bad, not bad.
Shrimp. So we are talking about buying, and the word is, I was actually doing a little bit of Greenland research because I wanted to know more about it, that basically Denmark gives $1 billion a year to support everyone who lives in Greenland because the economy is otherwise not able to suffice. Buck, a huge percentage of people in Greenland lack running water and actually shower by melting ice. So if you thought, I read that this morning in the Wall Street Journal as I was getting ready for our show. If you're out there right now and you're like, man, things are really tough for me, I bet you're not showering with melted ice, which I would imagine is pretty cold and not an intentional ice bath, as it were. But I thought that was interesting about Greenland, just kind of giving you an idea. President Trump's idea there is not based on what Greenland is now. It is, as many developers and real estate appraisers and purchasers always do, it's a projection of what the value of Greenland might be a generation from now, 2 generations, 3 generations. And remember, Buck, and you're a history nerd too, when William Seward bought Alaska, everyone derided the purchase of Alaska as Seward's folly in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War. And it ended up being one of the most brilliant acquisitions in the history of the United States because Alaska has become such a beacon of natural resources and such an incredible value play over time. But in the short term, there have been lots of ridicule. Heck, even some people ridiculed Thomas Jefferson when he bought the Louisiana Purchase back in 1803 from France. So long forward looking is the decision here as it pertains to Greenland. This is not a short-term flip play, as all the housing shows out there that everybody likes to watch. You know, I'm sure you've seen, Buck, where the guy's like a painter and the wife is like a daycare worker and their budget's like $800,000 for a house, and everybody's always like, how is that possible? This is not a fixer-upper flopper. This is a long-term play.
Absolutely. And real estate, in so many ways, has been a good long-term play. Donald Trump, more than almost anybody, knows that. And I would say this, Clay, maybe things are going to get a little warmer in Greenland because the planet, there has been some warming, not that much. It's climate change is not a catastrophe and all that stuff. But let's just say things got a little bit warmer over time. I think it'd be great. There's plenty of reason to believe it would be great. They don't really believe in climate change, though. They only believe in climate change when it benefits them, which is my pivot point here to something that I insist we discuss for a moment.
Yes.
Kamala Harris.
I know where you're going.
Kamala Harris. I'm going from Greenland to Malibu, baby. I am hopping a jet, taking us all over the world. This is the world tour with the Buckster. We're going from Greenland to Malibu. Really, I will say, among the most beautiful places in America, full of people with the worst politics. But Malibu is really nice.
Yes.
The sushi restaurant there, the Nobu there, very, very spectacular. Right on the beach.
Yep.
And here's what I'll say. Kamala Harris just bought an $8 million house with her lawyer husband there. And I would note a few things. First of all, she's clearly not scared of the erosion of the beaches or the cliffs, okay? What a shock.
You're suggesting that Kamala Harris is not actually worried at all about climate change because she, like all of the other super Hollywood celebs who claim to be worried about climate change, is actually buying a beachside home.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing how that works, isn't it?
Remember when Barack Obama, Mr. Climate Change is an existential threat to America. That was the big phrase of the Obama years. There was really an unholy and evil tripod of Obamaism, and it was healthcare, amnesty, or Obamacare, amnesty, climate change. Those were the three big things. There also was like the not George Floyd, but the BLM, that stuff the first time around. But that wasn't so much policy as messaging, or at least not a big law thing that they tried to pass necessarily. Clay. Obama got probably it's like a $30 million now, but like a $15 million beachfront mansion in Martha's Vineyard. No one actually believes this. I know we've been talking for a while about climate change has fallen out of the conversation, but the climate change, none of the people, the biggest advocates, believe this. They all want oceanfront property, and they want it in California and Hawaii and Martha's Vineyard, low-lying Martha's Vineyard, is at sea level. They don't care. They don't believe in any of this stuff. And Kamala also, such a phony. Oh, it's about rich people paying. That rich people are so bad. Well, what contributions has Kamala made? You wrote a terrible book, which you made me read because you goaded me into it.
You read it on your own. I blame you. Yes. 107 days.
8 million died. Felt like 107 days to read it. $8 million house. And this, in Malibu, I mean, the most, hoity-toity, fancy pants place in America, pretty much. And look, you might say, well, Trump lives at Mar-a-Lago. And yeah, Trump doesn't pretend to be something he's not. Kamala, the social justice warrior, she's just been enriching herself her whole life.
I don't begrudge anybody who decides that they want to have a nicer home. I don't begrudge anybody who wants to live near the ocean or near the lake or near anywhere else. But when you have spent much of your career, this is a great point, telling us all that the world is going to end and that climate change, we're all going to be undersea. And if you live in New York City or you live in Miami or you live in Los Angeles or wherever the heck it is on the coast, that at some point you're going to be inundated by rising waters. It is incredible. Several things. First of all, the prices of real estate on coastal communities continues to skyrocket everywhere in the entire United States. So even if you were, let's pretend that everybody else thought that climate change was real, you would see prices collapsing, right, on the waterfront. Instead, they are skyrocketing. Here's the other thing, Buck. Malibu, if you really thought that the world was going to come to an end because of climate change, right, that it was going to be uniquely destructive, Malibu might be the worst place in America to pay $8 million for a house. because they have the wildfires, as you well know. Much of Malibu got hit by the wildfires, which they tried to claim was based on climate change. But as we talked about when it happened a year ago, actually because of American and human ingenuity, we have limited drastically the amount of wildfires that take place in California, which have been going on since basically time immemorial because of the actual unique geographic constraints of Malibu. But it's not even just the rising seas, Buck. It is that you would look around and you would say, boy, this is a really dangerous place based on wildfires caused by climate change to buy an $8 million home. Instead, she did it. And you know what? She's going to be like Bernie Sanders. Remember how Bernie was all anti-homes? How many homes does Bernie have now? Like 3?
At least 3.
Yeah.
At least 3.
Socialist
like a good
Bernie
socialist.
Sanders, yes, has at least 3 homes. Kamala now has an $8 million beachside manor for her and her lovable Dougie Emhoff. He of the likes to slap chicks standards that nobody talks about, right? And so I hope the two of them live in wedded bliss. And maybe, Buck, maybe this decision to pay $8 million for this home will even more make that steak, when I put it to my mouth, even taste better when she runs for president in 2028, because she's got to pay for that.
I got a little out of my skis. It's a little aggressive. Look, she's going to get absolutely blown out, and she's not going to be the nominee. But my she's not even going to run call.
Get nervous.
I'm not going to say that. Like, don't buy any real estate on Buck Island 2.0 on this one, guys. I may be way off on this one.
I meant to mention, by the way, as we go to break here, I was down in the Virgin Islands over Christmas break. There is a Buck Island there. I saw it on the map, so it is still above the water. Now, I think it's uninhabited, as one might expect, given the predictions of Buck Island, but it is still there in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Beautiful, yet still uninhabited. Let me tell you all about how to save some money. If you are out there right now and you finished off 2025 and you looked at your bills as they come due now in January, and that credit card bill came and you just said, oh, like you just had that sick, sinking feeling in your stomach as you looked at how much was spent on presents, on travel, just on the holidays overall, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, and beyond. Maybe you could save some money right now, and you could save some money with a great wireless company, Pure Talk. You know, over the course of 2026, you could save up to $1,000 for your family by signing up for the same cell phone service that I use for my family. My 17-year-old has a Pure Talk phone. My 15-year-old has a Pure Talk phone. While I've been up here in D.C., I use it even more than usual to be able to stay in touch with my boys because I'm not seeing them every single day. And I trust Pure Talk to stay in touch with my family. You can trust them to stay in touch with your family, too, and save you a bundle up to $1,000 over the course of a year, plus 50% off the first month. Here's how you switch. It's super easy. From your existing cell phone, pound 250, say Clay and Buck. That's from your cell phone in your hand right now. Pound 250, say Clay and Buck. Great, incredible offers from a company that respects you and will save you a bundle. You can keep your same phone number. You can keep your same phone if you would like. That's pound 250, say Clay and Buck. Pound 250, say Clay and Buck.
News and politics, but also a little comic relief. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.